Um, we have the question set before us. Just confirm you can see the screen and actually can hear me clearly. Let's do this one, and then we should be fine. Is there anyone confirming you can see the screen and also can hear me clearly?
Yeah, loud and clear.
Okay, thank you very much. This is the paper for 2024 that we are doing, 2024. And I am reading the question in your hearing. The Zambian government is examining the relationship between wage levels and job risk, to better understand how to set policies that improve worker, welfare. So they are particularly interested in how wage adjusts, to different levels of job risk and how these adjustments impact workers' level of satisfaction. So the government has decided to introduce a minimum wage policy and needs an analysis of the effect of the same minimum wage policy. So you're given the utility function and also the wage function, given that R represents the risk level of the job. Okay, so the required is number one, you're required to calculate the utility, for a worker when their risk, is 5, and we show our calculations. Okay, so first of all, we have already had a situation that the government is trying to just check, the relationship that is there between the wage levels and the risk, the riskiness of the job, really. So they want to see what really happens when you adjust the salaries, okay? When you adjust the salaries at different levels of risk. Remember also there is risk on the other side. How does this really affect the level of satisfaction for the workers or for these people themselves? And so the government has decided to do all that. In addition to the same, they have even introduced the minimum wage policy. So how do you go about this? So to calculate the degree of risk that this the degree or the level of utility that we have on that risk, we need first of all to come up with the wage. Remember the function, the function that we have is has wage inside the utility function. The utility function is the W, open the bracket, 100 minus 15 times the risk. So we need the W for us to find this utility. And we're told that W, which is the wage in the wage function, is 120 plus 2 times the R, where R is the risk. So you can substitute the risk into this wage function so that you find W first. So the risk is 5. So we can replace 5 into that. Just add 5 times 2 is, what is that? 5 times 2 is 10 plus 120 should give us 130 as the wage. You're following, right? So our new utility function therefore shall be utility function is equal to 130, that is where wage is, times 100 minus, 15R. Okay. So now,
15 times 5.
You said, yes, 15R. And so you can say 130 times the 100 minus 15 times the risk. The risk R is 5, you know? So that 15 times the 5 is what? What's that? Should
75.
be 75. So 100 minus 75 is 25. So we have the utility of 130 times 75. So that the utility can be equal to how much?
3,250.
3,250. Is there any question from anyone? This is the question we had last year in the final exam. Is there any question? Any question from anyone? No question, right? Then we can move on to part B of the question if we don't have any question. Now, part B
Sorry,
of the
sir.
question. Yes, go ahead.
Okay, just say you said we calculate 130 by what?
130 by 75. Is it by 25? Is it 25? 25.
75.
25.
No, it's by 25.
25.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yes.
Remember, you're
All right.
subtracting the 75 from the 100.
From the 100. Okay. All right. Thank you.
Okay. Progress, we go to B. Can you determine the wage for a worker when the risk level R is 8? So what is the wage for a worker when the wage, when the risk is that, what is the wage when the risk is 8? So we know if we want the wage, you just have to compute in the wage function, right? And our wage function is equal to 120 plus, 2R, right? So 120 plus 2 times the degree of risk, which is 8. And so that you can have 120 plus 2 times 8, giving you 16. So that the wage can be equal to how much? What is 136? 136. That is the wage, that is going to be our wage. Are we good?
Sir.
Are we
Sir,
good?
I'm not good. Can you just repeat? Sorry, I'm behind.
Okay, it's fine. Which one are we repeating? B?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. So we did say that the question is asking you to determine the wage, right? The wage for a worker when the level of risk is 8. Show your work, show your workings. So we want to determine the wage. In short, we want to know what is the value of the wage. Now, we have the wage function in the question, and this is our wage function. So using this wage function, you can simply substitute the level of risk in the wage function, and you should be able to find, the wage. The degree of risk is 8. And then you say 2 times 8, giving you 16 plus 120 in the wage function, so that your wage can be equal to 136. You're good?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Sir,
Yes, sir.
is it possible you can show us where we are not given the risk, but the two function, the utility function and the wage function only? We know how to
Okay.
find the wage.
Okay, what a good question it is. Thank you very much for the question. Now, it's about what we are trying to analyze also from theory. If you remember in our last class, there was a part where we are trying to analyze that, what affects our desire, our utility for work. It is also affected or influenced by the level of risk associated to that job. You remember there is that theoretical underpinning towards that, isn't it? Like for people to choose the jobs, they don't just look at the salary, right? We also look at the risk And someone was citing, I even asked a deliberate question. I said, what are some of the jobs that you think they are deemed as risky? You remember that, huh? People said mining, others were, okay, there are different jobs that people say they are deemed to be risky. So in short, there is a theoretical underpinning towards this. There is a theoretical backing towards us doing this. So a function will only be given according to the theoretical backing. So this is what we have in theory. We can only have the relationship between the risk and the wage. Yeah. Any other thing, unless it is supported by theory, the function will be good. As for now, we are riding on the theory. You are good?
I
So
didn't
we
get
want to
my
draw the
question.
relation. Sorry?
I didn't get my question.
Okay.
So
So the
I
question
came
was, can
across.
you tell us can we have where there is no risk? Is that a question?
Uh,
Mm.
So there was a question I came across where we're only given the utility function and the wage function. Then they told us
Okay.
to find the value of W and the value of U without giving the level of risk. Like here, they've
Oh,
given us 5, which is straightforward.
but was the risky there in the function? Like not really given, but it was R given as a risk in the function, like just R like this. Maybe they have not just
Yeah,
said that the risk is 5.
that's the way those two functions are.
Okay.
Yeah, but the risk was not given as 5.
Okay.
Yeah.
Then you have
So
to.
I don't know if you have to use the y dx when you
Okay.
replace that function into, let's say, the utility function where there's W, you replace 120 plus 1R.
Okay. Okay. Let me make a request on behalf of the class. I think maybe if we can come up with that question, then we have it solved in class, because since I haven't seen the question, I may be answering something that I haven't seen, and I may mislead the class. So maybe if we can have access to that question, it comes, then we can answer it in class together, and I can be able to guide properly. As for now,
Okay,
we are good?
good.
Okay, thank you. Let's go to C. Part C of the question is saying, determine, the government, if the government introduces a minimum wage, let's say they say that the minimum wage is 150. Are you able to demonstrate how this policy affects the wage function and the utility of the workers with the level of risk at 8? We show our calculations. That is the question. If the government introduces the minimum wage, what is the impact of us having the minimum wage? So we have to check, yeah. We check if the minimum wage affects the case. So at that level of risk. So to do that, the first thing that we can do is to check if this minimum wage really affects the case. At that point, we know that when we use R, let's say when we use R in part B, when risk was what? Was 8. The wage was what? Was 120 plus 2 times 8. That gave us 136, right? That's where we are starting from. This is our wage. But the minimum wage is now set at 100 and what? It has been set at 150, which is higher, right? So the person will now earn 136. Minimum wage is higher than it's higher at this point. So what is going to happen to their utility? So you got to the utility function. You have to go to the utility function and just look at the level of risk of utility, the utility at this particular point. So our utility shall be equal to our wage 150 multiplied by our wage is 150 multiplied by 100 minus 15 times R. And our R is what? Is 8, right? That's what we have. So that our utility can be 120 times 150 minus times 100 minus 15 times 8. What is 15 times 8?
120.
120. So 100 minus 120, it should be negative 20. So negative 20 times 150 should be able to give us a negative figure, negative utility actually. This utility of how much? Negative 3,000. You're following, right? It is giving us negative 3,000. Okay. Are we following?
Yeah.
You follow what is happening. So now, what is happening now? The key message we are sending here is that when the wage goes beyond, 136, the equilibrium that we had, at that point, even if just a minute. Just a minute. So I was saying that at this point, look, the wage increased, but the level of utility became disutility. It became a negative figure. So what that means, the implication is that at some point, even if you increase the wage, the increase in wage will not always entail, the increase in what? The increase in wage shall not always entail the, what's this? It shall not always entail the increase in utility. You understand? The level of satisfaction. So wage is increasing, but as the risk is increasing, at some point, even if wage will increase, because the risk has increased too much, then a person's level of satisfaction will still be negative. It will be disutility. Is that clear? You have not gotten this. I can even show you again further. I can further show you this in writing, where we can show you further in writing. Let me just show you different levels of risk, if you may like. Let me show you risk before,
Mr. Ellen,
Yes.
so when the point that you're raising of disutility, does it mean dissatisfaction?
Yes, dissatisfaction. Like the person is no longer excited because the risk is very high. You understand? The risk at this point is now too high. You get the point, eh? So the risk is too high. The salary has been increased, yes, quite all right. But again, when a person looks at the risk, the level of risk that is there, it's still too much. Ndeja, where a person is getting a lot of money, but still they are not very excited because of the level of risk that is associated with what? With the job that they are doing. Because, security is something that is very important, and people do value security as they do work as well. It would be nice to have a job that is well paying, that pays a lot of money, but it has also very low level of risk. You understand? At that point, it's quite interesting and exciting, and you have more level of satisfaction, isn't it? And like, the amount has increased, but at the same time, also the risk really increases that it even can end up endangering your life. Think of that. You get the point, eh? You'll be like, oh, even if we are doing what we are doing, but it's risky. Are you getting the message we are sending? So the message that we are sending is that as the risk is increasing at the same time, even if the salary is increasing, it will reach at a point whereby a person's level of satisfaction will go down. So what should the HRs take home? You human resource people, what you should take home is that in as much as you want to increase the level of the salaries for the people, also look at the risk. If the risk that's around that particular job, if it is possible, there are some things within your power. Try by all the means to also reduce the degree of risk that is associated with the job. You get the point, eh? And the part of the ways, maybe I should ask you, the class, what are some of the ways on how you try to reduce some of the unnecessary risks? Okay, what risk, maybe I should ask you, what practically, what kind of risk do the people really fear at places of work?
So, Mr. Elon, I think that one depends with an industry also.
Yeah, you can pick one
Because,
industry and give us an example.
so if we're looking at the financial industry, obviously we have financial risks.
Okay.
So maybe that's
How
an
does
example.
that affect you as an employee?
I think, I don't know if there is a mic that's unmuted, or I'm getting some background noise.
Okay, you can go ahead. I've muted all the mics. Okay, continue.
No, so what I was saying is it depends with the industry. So we can look at the financial industry. Maybe the best example I can give is those people, is it CIT? Cash in transit, the ones who move with money.
Okay.
Yes, there is some level of risk associated with such kind of jobs.
Okay.
Like maybe where they can lose money, where the money is not balancing, or maybe there's an accident, something like that. Although maybe that money is insured, but at a point where maybe that money is not insured, there's just some level of risk. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much. Do we have any other risk? You can pick an industry, give any practical risk really that, what do you fear at your places of work? What's your threat, really? What are your threats that we can manage to reduce? Yes, go ahead.
So yeah, I'll talk of the mining industry.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so there are so many risks in an industry where sometimes you may be exposed to uranium and these other dangerous chemicals. So now I want to talk about mitigation as those employers on what they will do now to reduce the risk. So they will make sure that one, you are trained on how to handle those dangerous substance. Two, you'll be put on a periodic checkup. Then three, with the proper PPE, so that the risk may reduce up to the number which is acceptable for you to work. Otherwise, all the jobs have got risk. So it's up to the employers to make sure that they mitigate or reduce the risk. Of course, not to zero, but they bring them to the level where you can work.
Okay. Thank you very much. I think that one is clear, right?
Come in also?
Yes, you can go ahead, sir.
Okay, thank you so very much. So my case and Madam Zafira are coming from a highly regulated industry. And for me, I work from the airside, the area where we park planes. So now there's a lot of manual work that goes on. Of course, we use equipments that are hydraulically operated. So for one to work in such an environment, you need proper PPE, you need proper training. So now, in the case of risks, you might have an injury if you are not being vigilant in the way you operate. So we're encouraged to be vigilant and to look out for hazards, anything that can cause harm. You have to be on the lookout. Today at the class in human factor, and these are the things that we're being taught, so that we are safe and reduce the risk to the minimum acceptable levels. You cannot get rid of risk, but you can just reduce it to the levels where you see, okay, this is okay for our company. So the question that you raised to say, you asked us to cite examples of an industry which maybe pays a lot, but the risk is just too high. Now you can imagine in our workplace, if every day you go and work at the ramp, 2 or 3 people will come with maybe their hands cut, and they're paying us a lot of money. That is just an example. And they're paying us a lot of money. Then there's another company which is paying little money, but the levels of risk there, everything, the work conditions are okay, job security is okay, and it is safe to operate there. One would rather join such an organization because, again, if you are injured, you cannot operate in such an environment. That is my
Thank you very much. Thank you. I think, colleagues, you have picked the message we are trying to send. Yeah, we have picked the message that we are sending. So that's that. As the HR understand these things, make sure that at least minimize the risk to the acceptable level where people at least can manage. And one of the things that Mr. John has raised is the issue of also job security. Do you know that job security is also part of the risk that is there? You know, if people are not on any contract, not on anything and whatever, and people are afraid of losing all those things. Even if you are paying some good money, but when someone just look at this looks like a gamble. Can you think of that? You have seen this audit, yeah? It looks like a gamble. Yes, you're getting money, but it's more like a piece. It's like any day someone will just wake up and
it's actually a very good example. No, I'm just agreeing to say it's actually a very good example, the issue of job security, because I think this is one thing that most organizations are really struggling with, where you find people always raising concerns for those that are on contract. They need that confirmation, like to be on permanent, so that at least they know that they are sure that they have a job. And it's also easy for them to plan their lives around, because you don't know if tomorrow they can just wake up and terminate your contract without, like, they don't have to explain to you, they can end it at any time. So yeah, it's a very good example, the one of job security as well. Yeah.
All right. Thank you, colleagues. I think we can now move on to another point. So that's the message we are sending. We are trying to say, even if it's not just the issue of salary, you see some people go even to some companies that don't pay a lot. They may even be paying lower, but as long as there is a low level of risk, maybe there is job security there. Okay, let me just give you another example. Dwell a little bit much on the job security stuff. If you have checked the average of civil servants, on average, I've used the word average. People like civil servants don't get quite a lot of crazy money, you understand, right? On average. But you find that people still go there. They are even able to trade off something that is from private, because sometimes they may find that maybe in government, when you just get, when you become a civil servant, it's not easy to lose a job, really there. You can always, you get the point, right? There is a high level of security in terms of the job. And, but people just say, because of the risk, I think we can just settle for this. So it's not just the salary that should be looked at. That's the message we are sending across. Any questions, comments, concerns before we get to the last part of this question? Is there any question?
I think it's well explained, Mr. Elion. Well understood.
No. Okay. Thank you very much. If at all someone has a question, they could always raise their question. We get to D, and when we are on D, we are saying analyze the overall impact of the minimum wage policy on the workers' welfare, considering the different levels of risk. We use the different. You can even use the diagrams to support that, or we can even use maybe a table for the same. So different levels of risk, and also on the welfare. Let me just use a table for the same. Yeah, I'll use the table for them. This is the model that, let me just rotate the screen, and this is the table that we're going to use. So we are going to use this table where we have different levels of risk, all right? And this is our risk on the other side. We have risk, and our risk, let's say, starts from zero risk. Do you have something like that? Anyway, let's start from there. Yes, according to the function. Zero risk. Zero risk. Though not quite realistic, but zero risk is possible according to this function we have. Zero risk, 5 level of risk, for example, 8 level of risk, and 10. So now, what are the wages? What will be the wages at these levels of risk? When the risk is 0, remember the wage function is this one, 120 plus 2R. What will be the wage when you put 0 on R? It will be 120, right? Like the wage will be 120, for example. 120, isn't it? Yes, sir. It will be 120. Then what about when you put 2? It will be 124. 124. Are you seeing what we are doing? Like we're just getting the risk and substituting in the wage function. Where there is arrow, you put the risk. So this is 124. If the risk is 5, it will be 130, right? And if it is 8, it will be 136. If it's 10, it's 140. You're following the wage, right? So the wage is increasing as risk is increasing. But I want you to see the level of utility. I want you to see the level of utility. Utility, what happens? Okay. What happens to the utility when you substitute these at these levels of risk? You use this utility function. The utility function is wage times 100 minus 15R. This is our utility function. So if you put at wage 120 times when the risk is 0, you just put 0 on R, it will be just times 100, isn't it? This will be 12,000.
12,000.
Are you following? Like just do the substitution. Wage is 120, R is 0, the whole 15 part will decline into 0. So that's that. Then when you get to substitute, when wage is 124, 124 times 100 minus 15 times 2, because the risk is 2 now. 100 minus 30, that's 70. 70 times 124 is what? It's 8,680, right? What about when you put 130? 130. When the wage is 130 times the 100 minus 15 times the risk is what? It's 5 now. What is 15 times 5? 75. 75, 100 minus 75 is 25, isn't it? 25 times 130 is 32.
250.
You're following, right? But what happens when you put it at 8? When you, I think you have seen, you know, it's just substituting into the same function, colleagues. You put W is 136, right? 136 times 100 minus 15 times, what's our R? 8. At that point, you have a negative, negative of 2,720. 2,720. So there is now negative utility. You're following, right? The risk was minimum. As the salary was increasing, people are getting more satisfaction, but the risk again kept on increasing. At a certain point now, there is a disutility. You're following, right? There is actually disutility at different levels.
Where did we get the 100?
Where did we get the 100?
Yes.
In the function, in this function, like the wage function. You've seen, it's there, the utility function.
All right. Okay.
So when you do it at 40, obviously you know that it will be 140 minus 15 times the minus 100 minus 15 times the 10, 150. So that will still give us a negative of 7,000. You've seen, like disutility, That's the level of disutility that we actually have. Okay. So at that point,
at 8, that's where now the company now should try to minimize the risk when it goes to negative.
Yeah, it is now going to negative. Okay. So you will see this.
Are we going to denote this on a graph, seeing that the question was requesting this data to be presented on a diagram?
Did it say a graph? It's, what is it
reading?
Oh,
use a diagram. Okay.
It said a diagram.
Okay.
Okay. And what is our understanding of a diagram? Obviously, you understand, right?
Yes,
now you get it.
Do.
Okay. So basically, that's that. But now let me show you the wage after for example, when we put 150, what happens? When we fix it at minimum wage, 150. The wage is fixed, 150, it's 150, it's 150, it's 150, it's 150, but risk is going to be changing. So we're still using the same function. See what is happening. We want to see utility and see the effect the other side. Okay. What happens when it is wage is now 150 times 100, right? Because it's 100 minus 15 R. 15 R. R is 0 now. So it will be just 150 times 100. That gives us utility of 15,000, isn't it? You're following, eh? So it makes more sense now to have a minimum wage to the jobs that have 0 risk, isn't it? Because their level of satisfaction will be like, hallelujah, They'll be very happy. There is no risk and our salary is increasing, But look at this. When the risk now becomes 2, what happens? So it will be 100 minus 30, 70. 70 times 150 is what? It's 10,000. 10,500. Right? What about when the risk is going to 5? So it will be 100 minus 25 minus 15 times 5 is 75. 100 minus 75 is 25 times 150, giving us 3,750. Yeah? And when you go to 8, we said we found a negative 3,000, isn't it? It's going to be negative 3,000. 150 times 100 minus 15 times 8 is negative 3,000, which is now bad. Again, when you do it at a risk of 10, it will be negative 7,500. I think that. So this is not nice. This is not nice. You're following, right? But on top here, up to here, 150 is good up to the level of risk 5, isn't it? A minimum wage makes sense. But as the risk just goes beyond 5, you've seen what happens. After 5, it doesn't make sense now we get this utility. You get the point, eh? Sir, the message is clear. We have understood. We don't have any questions. Is there any question?